Okay. Good afternoon. I would like to begin the special board meeting for Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. Can we please start with a moment of silence? If you can please rise. Thank you. You may be seated. Treasurer, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Vasquez. Here. Mr. Parker. Here. Ms. Barnes.
Present.
Mrs. Gerken. Here. Mrs. Harwick.
Here. Now we would like to begin the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to participate, please stand.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to turn it now over to Dr. Durant to recite the mission and vision.
Yes, TPS mission is to produce competitive college and career-ready graduates with rigorous curriculum across all grade levels by implementing Ohio learning standards with fidelity. Our vision statement strives to be an A-rated school district whose graduates are college and career-ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durant. Tonight's purpose for this meeting is a special board meeting to address the growing frustrations across the country of attacks on public education. And as we are elected officials that you voted for, we are doing our job, and this is one way we are doing that by making sure we protect TPS and protect our staff, students in public education. As some may know, we have several bills that are attacking not only our students, our teachers, our curriculum that is already approved by the state, but also now, and been doing so, attacking funding, and actually trying to defund public education. And so we feel it's our duty to our parents and our constituents to share an overview of some of the state legislations that is currently being considered and want our community to understand the negative implications of these bills and understand our reasons for passing the resolutions we will tonight. So with that being said, I will now read the resolution that encompass details, very brief details. We do have some packages on the table over there, and we will also upload them to our website for viewing in a timely manner. So now I read a resolution in opposition to pending legislation that seeks to undermine, dismantle, and defund public education. Whereas Toledo Public Schools' mission is to produce competitive college and career-ready graduates through a rigorous curriculum across all grades levels by implementing Ohio's new leader standards with fidelity. Our core commitment includes being student-centered and building strong relationships among our student, staff, and community. Whereas the Ohio General Assembly has introduced a significant number of bills that would defund public education, usurp local control from the Board of Education, attack and harm members of our community, and or interfere with our students' right to receive a quality education. Whereas recent legislation interjects partisan politics into the nonpartisan system of public education in the state of Ohio, ignores common sense education policies, and would have long-lasting negative impacts on our students across the state. Whereas the Board of Education of the Toledo City School District, the board, is resolutely opposed to any legislating that seeks to interfere with public schools curriculum, instruction, defunding public education, or devalue members of our school community. Whereas the board opposed to the following legislation: House Bill 1, which makes numerous changes to the Ohio tax laws and will result in significant revenue losses to TPS and public school districts across the state. Should House Bill 1 become law, TPS could lose between $1 million and $4 million in fiscal in fiscal year 2024, and between 3 million and 9 million in fiscal year 2025. House Bill 6 would require school districts to designate, separate single-sex teams, and prohibit transgender students from participating in sports consistent with their gender identity. House Bill 8, which is shamelessly attacking LGBTQ plus students and endangering their mental and physical health by requiring school staff to disclose a student's sexual orientation or gender identity against the student's wishes. House Bill 11, House Bill 33, and Senate Bill 11, which would expand the Ed Choice Scholarship Program or establish a universal voucher program, costing the state over $1 billion per year, and decreasing state aid to public schools by approximately 68.5 million in 2024 and 66.5 million in 2025. House Bill 12 and Senate Bill 1, which would shift educational oversight from elected members of the State Board of Education to partisan political appointee, depriving local communities the right to shape education policy. House Bill 48, which seeks to revive so-called divisive concepts legislation that sought to restrict open and honest classroom discussions. House Bill 68, which would ban gender-affirming healthcare to minors contrary to generally accepted medical guidance and ethics, and would subject healthcare professionals, including school psychologists, to potential discipline. House Bill 103 would require a partisan group of political appointees to adopt academic standards and social studies for grades K through 12, which experts say would have damaging and lasting effects on the civil knowledge of students and their capacity to engage in civil reasoning and deliberation. House Bill 113, which would declare March 12th as the Trans Awareness Day and represent another piece of legislation that promotes misconceptions about the LGBTQ plus students' uh, LGBT students' fear, intolerance, and hate. House Bill 127, which would loosen or eliminate regulations for home education, removing accountability and resulting in worse learning outcomes for students receiving home education. Senate Bill 14, which would permit school districts to hire unlicensed individuals to teach core subjects, failing to adequately address the growing teacher shortage brought on by the Ohio legislator continued assault on public educators and public education. And Senate Bill 17, which would encroach on, undermine the authority of State Board of Education and local boards of education in seeking to update curriculum without consulting necessarily and relevant to stakeholders. Whereas our educators, students, and community members will endure significant harm in these bills becoming law. The board recognizes responsibility to speak out against and oppose these bills and others that seek to harm public education. Whereas the board and district leader remain committed to defending against all forms of discrimination on the basis of race, color, age, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, or disability, and will continue to provide all students a safe place where they feel comfortable to learn and engage with their community. Whereas the board demands the legislator comply with its constitutional duties to secure a thorough and efficient system of common school by committing to fully fund public education in the state of Ohio, a commitment that will improve educational opportunities and outcomes for Ohio students. Whereas the board believes that it and the State Board of Education, in consulting with professionals, educators, and community members, are in the best position to determine curriculum, not partisan politicians. Whereas the board encouraged the General Assembly to introduce legislation that support educators instead of bills that impose harsh penalties, discourage careers in education, and impede Ohio's ability to attract well-qualified candidates to fill open positions. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of Toledo City School District that Section 1, the board formally opposed and rejects House Bill 1, House Bill 6, House Bill 8, House Bill 11, House Bill 12, House Bill 33, House Bill 48, House Bill 68, House Bill 103, House Bill 113, House Bill 127, Senate Bill 1, Senate Bill 11, Senate Bill 14, and Senate Bill 17 of the 135th General Assembly as they seek to undermine, dismantle, and defund public education in the state of Ohio. Section 2, the board reaffirms its commitment to provide all students with access to high-quality public education. Section 3, the treasurer is authorized to deliver or cause to deliver a certified copy of this resolution to the community leaders, so members of Ohio House of Representatives and the Ohio State Senate, and to the office of Governor Mike DeWine. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effective form and immediately after it is adopted and shall supersede any prior resolutions or act of this board which may be inconsistent with the provisions of this resolution. And Section 5 is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of this board, and that all deliberations of this board and of any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in the meetings open to public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121-.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Ooh, that was a lot.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Move to the discussion. Board Member Vasquez.
Madam President, I just have to tell you that inside I feel an emptiness because I just don't understand always what's happening with the bills that we have in front of us. It's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming attack on public education. Some of the areas that are involved are curriculum, funding, healthy environment for our students, local control, for just a few. There are so many that I find it overwhelming to be able to address. This, to me, is a calculated, systematic dismantling of public education. And what I don't understand, because I know that this entire board and administration is looking for bipartisan support for public education. And what I'm struggling with is why a group of legislators would make these kind of proposals, and especially in light of a philosophy of taking government out of controlling people's lives. This is an insertion of more government than I've ever seen in people's lives. And I just find this troubling. I'm trying to understand why this is happening. But when I look at it, I can't come to any other conclusion than it is purposeful and has a goal in mind, and that goal is to dismantle public education. We need to do everything that we can, as you said in the beginning, of advocating for our students, their families, our staff, and the future of public education. So I will support this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Board Member Barwick.
Okay, where do you begin? So when I first ran for the Board of Education back in 2013, which it's crazy to think about, but I'm a parent and I want to do good for our schools. I want to do good for our students and create opportunities. And I think along the way, we've been able to do some of those things. Never in my wildest dreams did I think at that point or any point along the way that I was going to have to continue to fight the state just to be able to accomplish good things for our students. It makes absolutely no sense to me. From a community perspective, from a business standpoint, from just an economic driver point. I mean, I think this attack in all avenues is complete government overreach. And just like you said, Mr. Vasquez, never did I think that the government was going to intrude so much. That's just not what we should be doing, right? That's not what the state should be doing. There's so many bills here. I kept looking at it and I thought, I could count on one hand over the course of 10 years how many times we've supported a bill with the state of Ohio that they've brought forward. That's unbelievable that that is the case. It should not be happening. We should be working in tandem together to build our communities, to build on opportunities for our students, to connect our businesses with our public schools. The attack on curriculum, the attack on specified groups of students. Who does that? What adult does that? You don't have to agree with how students or families live their lives, but you don't need to attack them at the same time. So there are a few talking points I do want to point out with regard to the LGBTQ plus community. These bills would place students in extremely stressful and potentially dangerous situations and force educators to breach their ethical and professional obligations. They promote misconceptions about LGBTQ plus students, fear, intolerance, and hate. TPS considers parents a resource in providing its students the best educational outcome possible. I ran on parent power. I was a parent in this district. I would never in my wildest dreams think to target children in this way or in any way, but especially from the state level. Unfortunately, it may not always be safe to discuss a student's sexual orientation or gender identity with a parent or guardian. LGBTQ plus students often do not seek mental health support for fear they will be outed to family and friends. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among our youth. Might I add, gun violence would be the first. And could we just have the state legislature focus on maybe that one as opposed to attacking our students? While over 80% of LGBTQ plus youth want mental health care, 60% are not able to get it. Concerns regarding the need to obtain parent permission or the fear of being outed are significant causes of LGBTQ plus youth being able to receive proper care. Now, those are just some of the talking points I wanted to bring to fruition regarding those particular bills attacking our children. I'd also like to point out, though, our State Board of Education is our voice at the state level regarding education and curriculum. And now the governor's office wants to take that away and have it under his arm. Here's the problem with that. That's our voice. Once the government takes our voice away, what are we left with? Where is the control? Where is the local control that the state of Ohio should be focusing on? Instead, they want to take it for power so they can make their own decisions on what we should and should not be doing. One of the things that I have found crossing the state and talking to different school districts is that each one wants to have their local control. They want their voice because what works in Toledo may not work in Marietta. It may not work in different regions of the state, but it works for us. And what works for them is not going to work for us. These bills attack that. They attack our voice, and we need to fight back against it. And I know my colleagues are going to talk about some other of the issues and some of these other bills, but I did want to bring up about the vouchers just for a moment. Some of the boards that you see up here, these were from a slideshow that I wound up doing back in FY20, so that the numbers are actually have grown. That 70 million, that was just from 14 to 20. And so we're going to wind up adding to those slideshows, unfortunately. The amount of money, if you look at the vouchers alone, the 1.12 billion with a B, if you look at that compared to what the state spends on our total budget for public ed is 9 billion. That is asinine to bring a bill forward that is going to cost taxpayers without any accountability. And that is the problem, is the accountability piece. And I want to bring forward, recently there was an article in the Blade, and I thank you for doing that piece. And it was about trying to find donors for students. Each year, this has been an ongoing problem. We're just bringing it because we're sick of it being in the dark. We want it in the light. But our students, and I say our students now because that's what they are, we recently had students that were at Central Catholic for 3.5 years. They were kicked out for whatever reason. Central Catholic got their money. They come back to TPS with no transcript because they owe money to the private school. Here's the problem. Here's the problem, is that we now have students that are going to graduate. Where are the student-centered decisions being made at the state level for our students? Where are they? I don't see them in any one of these bills. On top of that, TPS, along with other districts, will get dinged on the flawed state report card for those students that are not going to graduate. Where's the economic impact that's going to have on those students' lives because they don't have a degree? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? I get impassioned about this because it impacts our students, our children in this community. I love our kids. I love our city. I love public education. We offer the true school choice and most educational opportunities. Anybody can go to church on any given Sunday. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Board Member Gerken?
Thank you, Madam President. These attacks are coming at us fast and furious, and we're spending a lot of time dodging these attacks, this tyranny coming from the state. But you know, they were preceded with a long and deliberate effort to undermine the public's trust in the media, the public's trust in government, and now the lowest level they could possibly stoop to is undermining the public's trust in education. We have highly trained professional educators and mental health professionals. We have very rigorous licensure systems in place. I believe that we are still very much capable of deciding an appropriate curriculum. I think we're very much capable of teaching the truth. I think we are very much capable of seeing to the actual safety of certain students without having to punish mental health professionals if they don't react a certain way to students coming out to them. I also believe that our community here in Toledo, our community does still trust us. I believe that they really do have our back. And I believe that they think that as a district under Dr. Durant's leadership and the governance of this board, that we are looking out for their children. And I hope that they understand this constant distraction of time that we're spending dodging today 14 different bullets coming our way, to the point that we really can't continue to dodge them. Some of these things are never going to come out the way we want them to in the legislature, specifically, expanded or universal vouchers, which is why the district is now part of a lawsuit that hundreds of districts across the state have had to join to declare those voucher systems as actually unconstitutional. So we'll see where that takes us with the Ohio Supreme Court when it finally gets there. I am really disheartened by the punishment mentioned for educators, particularly mental health professionals. In one particular bill, they named school psychologists. I'm a licensed school psychologist, and I wonder what's going to happen. You talk about an educator shortage and that we don't have enough teachers. We also have a shortage in all of these other professionals. How are we going to get people to come into these professions to meet the needs of our students and families when there's a threat of punishment for doing the very thing that your own ethical obligations and your own training and your own license, your boards expect you to do, which is to keep children safe? And sometimes keeping children safe means helping them delay some decisions about when and where and to whom to come out when it comes to their sexual orientation or gender identity. 4 of these 14 bills are specifically targeting the LGBTQ plus population. That's no accident. That has nothing to do with keeping people safe. That has to do with imposing a value system on the entire state that's not appropriate. I mentioned the bills that interfere with our ability to teach and put forward an appropriate, rigorous curriculum that teaches the truth. There's also a bill here that's interfering with our ability to oversee students receiving home instruction. I understand the choice of home instruction is a very rich and valuable choice for some families. I've known many young people who've come up home instruction and gone on to college if they chose, or returned to traditional education during high school and just flourished. But if we don't have any ability to oversee that, or at least make sure that the parents are supported by actual rigorous curriculum to present to their students, or at least making sure that students are making adequate progress the same way the state requires us to make adequate progress with the faulty report card, why wouldn't we expect there to be some local oversight into those students who are in home instruction? It still allows parents to have a very rich amount of choice, but if we're being forced to make sure our students under our care reach certain milestones, why would we not have that same oversight, whether it's home instruction or students receiving vouchers or students in charter schools? It's always been about attacking public education, diverting those resources to charter and non-public schools with no oversight, whether it's oversight for the money or oversight for the outcomes for students. We don't get to just put a kid out ever. We have to see it through. We have to try everything. The other systems do not. So these attacks are not only on the system at large with their edicts and their funding, they're on educators, and they're on the students themselves. So this attack is coming from every level of the system, and I really just can't wrap my brain around the end game here. I appreciate my colleagues, and I appreciate the leadership of this district for for standing up to the tyranny from the state of Ohio.
Thank you. Vice President Parker?
Thank you, Madam President. Hearing my colleagues, we all are on the same page. And I think for me, I feel just an overall sense of frustration. I love public education because I'm a product of public education. Not only that, but I'm an active parent of students of public education. And the frustration comes because I can't wrap my mind around how, with students that struggle to wonder if they're even going to come home daily, to have to deal with what I believe is a strategic but sneaky, systematic, oppressive mindset that tries to combat against the efforts of having public education in existence. I think that they have a warped perception of what is right. Ms. Varwig spoke on it, as well as students not even having the opportunity to graduate because of the fact that there's a transcript that's being held up. Families deciding whether they're going to file for bankruptcy to make sure that that can be taken care of. I mean, students having the option of getting a GED as opposed to even having to walk for graduation, or so that their family doesn't have to deal with that that financial burden. It's disheartening. It's sad. It's frustrating. These bills, all of these bills. And the sad thing is, if something doesn't work in one bill, they'll add it to another bill, and they'll add it to another bill, and they won't stop. They won't stop. They'll keep going. And they're trying to really instill fear into those of us who will stand up for what's right. Even as it relates to Senate Bill 14, which is a distraction of the real issue of the growing teacher shortage. Our students deserve the best education, and we strive to provide that. And I believe that my colleagues, this board is committed to hiring and retaining individuals to provide our students with the best educational outcome. That Senate bill in particular only provides a short-term solution to a major problem that public education is facing, and that's a growing teacher shortage. When you look at all of these pieces that are before you, it is an attempt to create solutions to problems that honestly do not exist. And the board is in the best position to consider and regulate staff conduct. We have done that. We are doing our part, not just to make sure our students are safe, but our staff is provided for. And so every time these bills come up, it literally twists my stomach because we're losing focus on the main thing. And that's for our students to have the best education that is available to them. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So, all of my board members, all of my fellow board members have expressed frustration. And if I'm gonna be honest, I'm beyond frustration. I'm pissed when you have cowards. They're not adults, they're cowards, attacking youth, attacking kids. How can they claim they're leaders? So they are cowards. You can hashtag that. I said it, they're cowards. And the fact that they hide behind these resolutions, these bills, and pass them in the night and don't face our teachers, don't face our students, don't come to their neighborhoods to address the real issues. I would love to have to spend the time that we've been spending on this energy of hate and bigotry to address issues like homelessness, our youth homelessness population, gun violence, mental health, things that is really hurting our school districts. Instead of these invisible issues as they try to make themselves look better politically, they're cowards. you are attacking the most vulnerable population in our system, and that's youth. When you try to take away the adults that support them and love them and educate them, you're a coward. When you try to tell them who they are because you don't understand it, and then you put them in harm's way, you are a coward. And you're a lot of other things, but I'll keep that to myself. When we're talking about the vouchers and how they claim that it's going to help those who are underserved um, attain high quality education, guess what? TPS is doing that already, thanks to no help of you. We are offering best career opportunities through trades. We are partnering with our local community colleges and universities. We are mentorships. If you look at our schools, if you are not scared to come to the hood to actually look and walk and meet our students and walk through our schools, you will see what high quality education is and not keep thinking you know what it is just because the neighborhoods you choose that you think kids should go to for a higher quality education have grocery stores, have adequate funding for tutors, have adequate funding for spaces that are safe. If you really want to help the disadvantaged, underserved population, youth population, then let's talk about those things. Let's talk about the financial, economic disadvantages and stop making it a political one. I mean, pretty much what I'm saying, do some real damn work. Stand up for common sense gun laws. Our babies are dying every day. And I thank my fellow board members. I thank the administration for showing up as a mother to protect my baby's education, my community baby's education, because 14 bills against everything that we're doing right is really robbing the community. So I want people who are voters, I want people who are not voters to get registered. I want parents, grandparents, aunties, nephews. If you're turning 18, these state officials are robbing you. They are literally sitting in your face laughing while they rob your community. And I don't like to get robbed. So I need you to get frustrated with me and also pissed off. And let's do something to stop this. Thank you. To call the roll, please.
Before we get started with that, after consulting our attorney, we'll do the resolution that you read as one vote, and then we'll do a second vote for the consent agenda, which technically will approve all those individually.
So I would like to make a motion for the first resolution, please.
So moved.
Second.
Nope.
Hang on, we had that, Chris made the motion.
Okay, so we already have.
Mr. Parker did the discussion, so now we're to vote on that one, then we have to do the consent. Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Barwick.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I
Section-
move to pass the consent agenda.
Second. Can
Mr.
you-
Vasquez,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Mrs. Gherkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Barwick.
Yes.
Any further comments by the board, superintendent, or treasurer?
Yes, Madam President, please. I would just say that you can see the commitment by the TPS Board of Education. We're here during spring break. I applaud our administration for being here as well, again, during spring break. You know, we don't take this lightly. I would implore the community a call to action. Pick up the phone and call your legislators. Go to the website for the state of Ohio. Look where the bills are at in the committees. Call the committee chairs. Call your own legislatures here locally. Let them know how you feel about all of these bills. We're going to put it out on social media. We'll have it out on our website hopefully, or so you can find it from this board meeting. Please pick up the phone and make a call because public education is on the line.
Thank you, Board Member Barwick. Board Member Gerken?
Regarding the expansion of vouchers, particularly the universal voucher movement, Toledo Public Schools, in partnership with the Toledo Federation of Teachers, Toledo Administrative Personnel, Sylvania Education Association, Sylvania School District, Washington Local School District, Lucas County Commissioners, Northwest Ohio, Friends of Public Education are hosting an emergency meeting to discuss Ed Choice vouchers, which we have just reminded everyone are a threat to the existence of the public common school system. That informational event is being held on Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. at the downtown library. We are just beginning to get the word out and promote that event. We plan to have board members from many of the surrounding school districts in the county so that they can learn more about how important it is to come on board with this lawsuit that I mentioned, because we do not believe this is going to be solved at the legislature. But we do believe there is a very solid case for proving that the whole voucher system is unconstitutional. So please plan on coming out for that informational meeting on May 9th.
Thank you, Board Member Gerken. Mr. Vice President?
No further comment.
I just want to also say real quick before we move to adjourn, when we're talking about the gun violence with youth, think about the money that the vouchers are taking, how we can have social workers, we can then do intervention teams and violence interrupters on our campuses and therapists on our campuses. So many things that we could use to prevent and intervene. And that's just goals, but literally provide the education that we need, like buses and bus drivers and paras and things of that special needs system. So just think about what we're losing constantly. And I always say, once again, I'm not against advocating for your child to have high quality education, but ask yourself, why do we have to foot the bill? So with that, I will ask for move to adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Vasquez,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Mrs. Gerken,
Yes.
Mrs. Barwick.
Yes.
Thank you and have a good night.
to say or share?
Protect public education. Our students deserve it, our teachers and staff deserve it, and it's what's best for our community.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheena.
Chase,
Yeah.
would you like to interview Pastor Parker? Dr. Durant wants this to be just for board members to share their.
Sorry. Good.
His saltiness.
We'll switch angles here, Mike. Swab.
Definitely answer those questions.
Sheena did a great job. So. Okay. So I'll just have you plant your feet, keep your shoulders still. You look at me. I'll hold the mic.
Take the half step this way. Thank you.
We good?
Yep.
Cool. All right. The first thing we'll have you do, if you want to say and spell your first and last name and give us your title.
Randall, Randall, Parker, Parker, third Vice President, Toledo School.
So, can we call you Reverend Parker?
Yes.
Okay. So, Reverend Parker, just kind of give us your top line thoughts about this legislation. You spoke earlier, and just kind of give us a summary of your take on all this legislation and the board's opposition to that.
This onslaught of bills that are going forth right now against public education is frustrating, it's disheartening. It's personal. I think that is very personal. The attacks are personal. The strategies, systematic oppression is personal against public education. I'm a product of public education. I'm a parent of active students of public education. So there has to be a fight that goes on against this warped perception of what they feel is a solution to a problem that actually doesn't even really exist.
Why are Ohio legislators in the House and the Senate, why do you think they're passing legislation like this? I mean, Borton Vasquez says that he sees no other conclusion than they're trying to dismantle education. What's your take on it? Why do you feel that?
I agree with my colleagues that this is a strategic attack to dismantle and defund public education. I believe with all of my heart that it is a political move to really come against our public education frame and model that we have and have had from previous generations.
What can parents, what can other community members do in response to this? What can they do?
Sure. So we've done our part as the board with the resolution, but it goes so much further than that. Parents, community leaders need to step up. We need to speak up. We need to make sure that we are sharing our voice and our displeasure with those who are in position, those who are a part of the State House, the representatives, the Senate, all of those. Find out who your local legislator is and begin to express your dissatisfaction for the way that this onslaught is going on with as it relates to the attack on public education.
Anything else you wanted to say or share?
I just think it's very important that we continue to fight, because if we don't fight for the students, they have no one that will fight for them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you.
Awesome. Should be good. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
No problem.
Take care.
You too.
Talking just to make sure we have enough B-roll, but yeah.
I'm not sure.
We can't go through the VIP.
We're not.
So I just strap you off.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's ready. I'm studying this and not seeing why I'm doing it at the end of the month. And I realize he said, still, it's very, that's not a real. Yep. Appreciate it. All right.
6:25, my goodness.
I don't know, I was bitching about the $625.
That's a good one.